Mr. Cat Poop.
Hello, and welcome to the SaladCast on Monday, the 5th of April, 2021. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
In the same location again.
And Robert Kemp.
You're going to have to move, Cat. I need to sit here. This is a life and death situation.
Better not be Mr. Cat Poop.
I don't know. Some days I do feel like I'm Mr. Cat Poop. Having to deal with your disgusting backside, aren't I, Mushy Mush? Yes, I am.
Ew. You don't want it to be Mushy Bush.
No, I definitely don't.
That would not be good.
It's a very appropriate nickname, isn't it, Mushy Mush?
Ew. Zachary Burgess from the same location. Me from a different location.
Woo. Yep, that's what I was implying.
Rob from the same location for now.
Yes.
Not by choice.
Yeah, but not for long.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fun. How is the other side of pretty much where you lived?
It is 10 minutes down the road from where I've lived for 7 years. But this place, I own this one, so it's a first time. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good getting everything set up. Everything just about fits. I basically bought it, and I also rent on the basis of like looking at the floor plan and seeing to figure out where my furniture can fit. So luckily it fits. Yeah, so I'm good. I'm hoping to be playing a few more games. So now I've got a TV and a sofa to chill and game on.
That'll be good.
Yeah, it should be good.
Another Breath of the Wild run through.
Yeah, well, that's probably going to be stage one. I mean, I've got a temporary TV stand. It's not. I got the TV mounted on the wall. Yay!
Oh,
so that
cool.
worked. Yeah, I got John Lewis to do it, which was good. And it does, even though it's ridiculously huge TV, it does make it seem much more reasonable. And because of the distance from my sofa, I think I'm pleased. I think I went with the right one. But I've got a temporary, crappy IKEA lac, cardboard thing to hold up the sound bar. Because honestly, the sound is terrible on TVs out of the box.
Absolutely, they're awful. Yeah,
yeah. I guess there's nothing they can do because they're flat, right? How can you make good sound? You basically can't.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky. I mean, I guess it could be better than it is, but because screens are so thin now, I guess they can't really dedicate as much of what they do have to speaker depth.
No,
so everything ends up sounding weird. And I guess there's an awful lot of resonance in the actual TV casing itself.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, this one, though, is an LG one, and I think the stand is meant to help direct the sound, but I'm not using the stand because it's mounted on the wall.
Yeah.
So I've got the sound bar on this crappy black piece of crap. But I will eventually get the TV stand that I ordered, which is being made in made.com. What they mean by made is it, takes 3 months to make in China or whatever shipping problems they're having. I don't know where it's made.
Was it on the Evergreen?
Yeah, probably. It's probably stuck on the Ever Given. Yeah.
Did you hear that thing was added to Flight Simulator?
No. That's awesome.
They put the boat in it.
That was brilliant. I guess it's gone now though because it's real time, I don't know. Isn't it? I mean, they've got real time weather, and is there real time air traffic in that game? I think there is. So maybe they could do real time shipping traffic as well if they.
I guess they could. I don't know if ships are tracked the same way, but I assume they are. But
I think it's probably easier to track ships than planes, isn't it?
Maybe. Yeah.
Because what surprised me was it seemed to imply from some of those, I don't know, news stories that not only could you track the position of shipping, which I knew, But it seemed like the ship was so big that it actually tracked the orientation, and you could actually see that it was wedged across the canal. I was like, can you really tell that? Surely you just get a point data. You don't get like, here's the bow and here's the stern. But maybe.
I mean, maybe you can get the GPS distance on some of the bigger boats. Is probably enough.
Because it's so huge. Maybe there's a tracker on the front and on the back. Yeah. That's quite funny. So yeah, that will come, and then hopefully by the time I get that in like July, there might be some PS5s in stock somewhere in the world. But for the meantime, I've got my PS4 Pro and my Switch, so I can play some Breath of the Wild. I guess we'll talk about 4K Switch gaming shortly.
Or the potential therein.
Yeah.
Could all be live.
But yeah, getting set up. It's definitely a little bit echoey because I've got a wooden floor and it leads into the kitchen. You know, it's open plan. So I need to get me some. I've got the sofa, but I need some cushions, and I think I'm going to get a big rug that'll absorb some of the sound and like make a differentiation between the kitchen and the living room, even though it's one room. You know.
Mm. Yeah. Do you reckon you're going to be one of those, like, it's not one of those flats where you're going to be the hard-footed guy in the flat above?
Well, I have not heard my neighbours at all yet. I think it's pretty well, because it's only built like a few years ago, so I think it's pretty well insulated.
Is that mostly an American thing? Like, is that like just how American flats are sort of built, or apartments? Are they just bad at that?
You can hear people.
Yeah,
maybe. I think
because American
problems.
American buildings generally just use a lot more wood, right? So they're more likely to have straight wood floors between floors rather than, anything else.
I'm not sure, because this building is brick on the outside, but I'm not sure. I was thinking about it, if the bricks are actually structural. I think it might be a steel frame building, then and the bricks are kind of decorative. They seem pretty solid.
They probably help, though, right?
Yeah, can't hurt, can it? But yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to hear people above me, but nothing yet. I think John and Vanessa had trouble, but they were in like a 1950s council estate flat, weren't they, at the time? They had to have like a drop ceiling, but I think they had really irritating upstairs neighbours as well.
I thought they were on the... Oh, maybe I'm thinking of the wrong place, but anyway.
This was a while ago, yeah. Before they got the house, So, set up, just getting everything sorted out. I'm working from here, of course, tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. I think I've got everything. The internet seems to work.
Fingers crossed for this podcast.
So that's kind of the key. I mean, as you can hear right now. Yeah. So I will report back on what Zelda looks on a freaking 65-inch TV.
I mean,
the pixels will be huge.
It's a bit pixely, yeah. It was pixely enough on a 55.
That's true.
Did you say you went for the 65 in the end?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I'm glad I did, because it definitely is the right one. When I marked it out, I was like, this is ridiculously huge. And then when he actually put it up, I'm like, no, actually, this is correct. Yeah.
I would never win that fight with no.
I don't know what the fight's about. But and I've got a sofa bed, so come on down and stay in London. Yeah.
That's right, greater internet. Come to Dad's house.
Yeah. Yeah, and most important, I've got a new kettle.
Oh. Good. Have you used it enough yet to make a decision on how good it is?
Not enough. I've only test run it a couple of times. And
obviously, the real question will come later once you've used it for like a month or two. And
exactly.
Got whatever gun it's going to acquire.
Exactly. Currently, it seems fast and quiet, and the pouring seems good, but it's still plasticky. But I guess that was the idea, right? Rather than metal.
That's kind of the point. What sort of filtering does it have? Does it look like it's a filter that's going to get clogged up quite quickly, or is it easy to take out at least?
I need to double check that. I will report back on the status of the filter in my Dobus.
Because that is the problem with our kettle for sure.
Dobus?
It actually has quite a good filter, but because it collects all the lime scale quite quickly, it like if you take the filter out and clean it and then put it back in, the next time you try and pour, you like pour too fast because it's not obstructing the flow any longer, and you're like, whoa! You like pour hot water all over the place.
Yeah.
But that's probably more of a problem for hard water areas. I don't know how hard the water in Suffolk is classed. Quite hard because it's limestone, right?
Hugely hard, isn't it? Yeah. I think
I've never felt like our water was like super hard, like medium hard.
I mean, it feels like liquid, but
nice soft water though is very nice. You don't get it in London, of course. You have to go to Yorkshire or something for the best water. And that's why Yorkshire tea is so nice, not just the tea, but also they have nice water.
See, I don't know. I'm not sure I buy the whole soft water is the tastier water. I like my water hard.
Well, that's because
we're just used to
you
it,
like the flavour of the hardness. That's
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
You actually like chalk.
Love a bit of chalk.
I think there's a weird thing about soft water where sometimes it can feel like it's warm. I don't know, like it does. I mean, the hard soft thing is actually weirdly accurate, right? It's like it's thicker in the palate somehow, and
it's true.
Yeah. Whereas I think I prefer that sharp iciness of hard water. They should not get me to write tasting notes.
I don't know. You do a good job, I think.
Sharp iciness.
Sharp iciness of hard water. Yeah. I get what.
Ice is literally hard and sharp water. Yeah.
It's not always sharp. It can be a bit rounded. Depends how melty it gets.
With the texture of melted ice.
But yeah, what's going on with you guys?
Far too little. As you may have said, still waiting on legal people to sort themselves out before we can fully embrace the move. It has meant at least that we've spent all Easter not doing anything housey at all. So, first weekend for a while, but neither of us could be asked. Honestly, it's just like, no, let's have a weekend.
Definitely have a long weekend off.
Yeah, I mean, because as soon as stuff happens, we'll be guns blazing. We'll pack this place up. But there's a certain level of comfort, I suppose. It's like, do we really want to pack all of our? We haven't really packed anything in the kitchen yet. For instance, it's like, but then we might use that to eat with. Or
yeah, exactly.
Pretty
much.
Get
any Easter eggs?
No.
That you can keep for several months.
Exactly.
You must have got Easter eggs, Zach.
No.
Oh, even I got one. Very small one. Used to make a big deal out of it.
I don't think I've ever made a particularly big deal out of Easter eggs.
No, is it more Zach, I would say?
I don't know. I feel like I made a big deal out of it. I usually got some, just randomly. Not even by choice necessarily. It was just like, here, have an Easter egg, I guess.
Okay. Oh, that's what made it happen. Okay.
I mean, it's always bad chocolate anyway in those things, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Well, unless you get the dairy milk ones, they're okay. They're okay.
Is it actually dairy milk, though, do you reckon?
Well, I mean, it's like medium grade dairy milk. It's better than McDonald's McFlurry dairy milk.
Right.
Right.
That's the lowest grade.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd have it's like a refinery and they skim the best off the top for the actual dairy milk bars?
Oh man,
the middle is for chocolate eggs, and the bottom, the dregs, goes straight in McFlurries.
Yeah, maybe the middle layer is the stuff they have to use to coat chocolate bars or something, and then other Cadbury's products. Maybe that's what they turn into the flake or something.
Yeah, the flake as well could definitely be on the McFlurry grade of chocolate.
Lower grade.
Or a Whisper or something like that. But then surely the lowest grade of like Cadbury's chocolate is no longer Cadbury's chocolate, right? It's the sort of craft stuff they put around a cream egg.
No, that's explicitly not the same chocolate any longer, isn't it? That's why they ruined cream eggs. That's why everyone said. As soon as they changed it from being dairy milk chocolate on the cream eggs, it's like, well, you've fucked this up, haven't you?
Well, that's the end of cream eggs, isn't it?
I have to admit, there hasn't been quite such a big deal about cream. You know, you used to be flooded with cream egg ads, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't see nearly as many now. They had that one where it was like some sort of Google Maps game or something, where it's like put an Easter egg on a map, hope someone finds it.
Like a geocaching, but with
but not even with real eggs. I don't know how that works. It's like if someone finds your virtual egg, you just get an egg from Cadbury's. Or does everyone get delivered like a dairy milk cream, Easter egg or something? But it's like very securely locked until you do this geo puzzle, and then all of a sudden your egg is released.
Release the egg.
From its chocolate cage. Wait, no, that wouldn't work, would it? If you had a chocolate egg in a chocolate cage.
In a chocolate cage.
Just eat the cage. Throw away the egg afterwards. The cage might be made out of dairy milk. You never know.
I mean, in these Easter eggs, often the egg is a cage for the actual sweets that you want that's inside.
I see. I never really want those sweets, though. Yeah,
they don't even put them inside any longer. They just put them next to it in the box, and it's like, oh, this sucks.
That's not as good.
Choking hazard.
Once I had one inside, except they're in a plastic bag inside.
Yeah.
That's about the best you're going to do.
Yeah.
And see, I don't know what if that sort of like, I don't know, bite-size snack, mini sort of candy that I really want anymore these days. Maybe Razzies or Minstrels.
The last one of those that I remember having with an Easter egg was just wine gums alongside an Easter egg. And it's
that's really weird.
It's not a good combination.
No, that's
two things are fine by themselves.
But that was pretty much what it always was, wasn't it? It was like always some Roundtree's thing. If you got a Nestle egg, it would always be some weird fruity thing on the side. Or buns. It's almost always buns, right? Everyone gets the buns.
Just more chocolate.
What grade of dairy milk are buttons?
Oh, I think buttons
probably in medium grade.
Medium grade,
mid to high. They're all right.
Yeah, they might be high mids.
Yeah, buttons are all right. No,
they're like petrol, but not like kerosene.
They're not premium, dude.
I mean, the real question about. Well, no, I mean, it's not really a question because it's obviously not. But you imagine that buttons are just like, this is the spillage from the actual making the dairy milk.
Yeah, I guess.
Where it all drips down, they just have like another conveyor belt below the molds for the actual dairy milk bars where they make the buttons.
Yeah, probably.
But that's not how that works, of course.
No.
But it's how you'd like to imagine it works.
Like those adverts when they made like hole punch polos. Like,
yeah, by punching the middle out of the polos.
New holes.
Because you do.
That's what they called them.
Yeah, they literally were just called holes.
You do very occasionally.
Bag of holes, please.
You do very occasionally get those, like, you know, where you can actually buy like the fucked up leftover bits of some process.
Like the broken biscuit boxes.
Yeah, broken biscuits is the classic, but that's not really the same. That's just like these biscuits were fucked up after they were made into biscuits, rather than being like, this is the leftover crust that came off the processing of the biscuits.
Are you talking about like this is where they like filter all the garbage bits into a rocky road or something?
Yeah, kind of.
It's probably how Hotel Chocolat do it, right? Make
this. I feel like a couple of those times when they did those like the dairy milk bars that just had random crap in, I felt like that was the same kind of thing where they just like taken the sweepings off another line and shoved it into a dairy milk bar.
Sweepings. Oh, that makes it sound so much worse.
Like it's been on the floor.
Yeah.
That's what sweepings implies.
The rejects. I think that's what my dad got a few times when Nestle first took over the factories he used to work at. They sort of would give him boxes of reject chocolate. That's how I ended up with so much Kit Kat Chunky for a while. But I don't really know why they were reject boxes. They seem fine.
Oh man, I've not had a Kit Kat Chunky in a long. Do they still do those?
Yeah, they're still about.
They must do.
They're still legendary.
I could do with one. I've had a Boost bar recently.
Ugh. I don't care for Boosts. I know you did. It was like always a classic. Like what we getting from the shop? Boost bar.
Yeah,
Boost. Not a Cornetto, a Boost bar.
Cornetto.
And pretzel flips when they were a thing, and they're a thing again now.
Classic.
They had a little break, but now they're back.
Need to get me a Kit Kat Chunky. Or just a Kit Kat. I don't think I've had a Kit Kat in a while.
They're very different experiences.
Yeah, they're very different.
I feel like a Kit Kat Chunky has like extra chocolate layers in the wafer. Like, so it's got the thick chocolate around the outside, which is what you're really in for. And then there might be an extra, like, sort of like, I don't know, like the layer they put in a bourbon biscuit sort of in the wafer. That sort of like mushy chocolate. A mousse or a ganache?
Ganache.
Mushy chocolate.
So much. What's the stuff in everything, but in Mars bars? Nougat, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Nougat.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
What even is nougat?
Or even those like specific nougat bars. What are they, like the double decker or something? Is that what? Where they?
Right.
No, one of them has. Anyway, there's like a pink and white nougat bar, isn't there?
Well, yeah, the actual just straight, but that's not the same thing that's in a Mars bar. I mean, it's technically the same thing, but it's not doesn't taste nearly the same.
No.
The pink and white one is more just like, I don't know, fluffy sugar. It's like a slightly harder marshmallow.
Has it got a sharp and icy texture? Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of nougat. I do like a Mars bar, though. But the problem is, I'm still bitter about Mars bars, though. That's the thing. It's like, growing up on the king-size bar.
Right.
That really were king-size. Those were brutal on your dental health. But they were delicious. And now you look at a Mars bar now, and you're like, this is nothing.
There's a good YouTube video about king size bars by that Natalie Tran community channel. I'll look that one up, listeners. It's a fun time. King size.
Share size. And there is nothing fun size about that size.
There's nothing fun about something that small.
Well, it's more irritating, isn't it? Because you've got to unwrap them more of them.
Yeah, I know. Annoying.
No, but I don't think it would sell quite so much if you called them annoying size.
Tiny.
Frustration size. Stress bite. Actually, that sounds like it would be a stress relief food, wouldn't it? It's like, have some stress bites. Delicious stress bites.
How would they work? They've just got antidepressants in them.
This is probably one of the 11 herbs and spices around popcorn chicken. Antidepressants. Popcorn chicken's probably the closest thing to a stress bite, right? They're pretty good.
What was that joke in Hitchhiker's Guide? It was like it was a towel that was a super advanced towel, right? And you could suck on one corner and it gave you like all the nutrients you needed to live. And it was like, oh, that's disgusting. Oh, you better suck on the other corner. What's in that one? Antidepressants.
So is the towel like synthesizing your body goop into?
I don't know how that towel worked. It was a very high-tech towel. I mean, you've got to really know where your towel is if it's that high-tech.
Bring it down.
Yeah, that's true. Towel really is a hoopy fruit.
A hoopy fruit?
A hoopy fruit, yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Hoopy fruit.
So, video games.
Video games.
They are a subject
they are a subject that this podcast occasionally touches upon.
Shall we touch on it now? Let us touch on it.
We could. Let us lay our hands upon the fabric of the game.
What is going on in the world of gaming?
Let's talk about the potential of what is happening in the world of gaming, first of all.
What's potential?
With the rumours of a new Nintendo console coming out at the end of this year.
You mean the same rumours, but more?
Yeah, basically another Switch. But it's not a new console. It's a half-step console.
I knew the same console.
That's what we all knew the Pro was going to be, though.
Yeah.
Well, if it's even a thing, Nintendo have never, or there's never been any real clue from Nintendo that this is a thing. And for the record, Nintendo have done this before. You only have to look at the DS, right? They've done this many times.
Yeah.
DSi, DS Lite, the 3DS, 3DS XL, new 3DS.
Yeah. They just haven't done it with a home console, but I guess the Switch is a mobile console. So.
Yeah. So Switch Pro, as the rumor is called, I don't reckon they'll call it that when it comes out. It'll be Switchier or
probably a new Switch.
New Switch, yeah. The Switch U?
No, I don't think they can bring back the U.
No, too many bad connotations. Yeah, so it's rumored to be pretty much the same, if you had it in your hands. So a 720p screen, yada, 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 with the slightly improved battery life from the first version that you can already get in versions of the Switch now. All of that. But the kind of big thing is that it will have a new NVIDIA chipset inside it that is DLSS capable and thus allow for 4K upscaling using DLSS.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean maybe?
DLSS seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, I've never experienced it myself, but it's generally regarded as decent. It runs at a lower native res, so your system can technically pump it out faster because it's a lower native res, and then uses AI learning upscaling to bring it back up to the native res. That's the idea. That's why it's supposedly gives you more performance, because you're not technically rendering it as well, but magic then happens. So yeah, bringing that to the Switch might be a decent way of achieving 4K, because there's probably not going to be enough power in a mobile device to do that, really. So that's the main rumor, that it's a 4K.
I thought there was something about the screen on the device itself being like OLED. I thought it would be higher res, like 1080, but if it's 720, the same as the existing one. I mean, 720 is fine for that device, though. Really, I don't necessarily think you need too much dot pitch on it. But there's no. I mean, if it has the TV mode, then it would kind of make sense to run TV mode on mobile for the Pro version, right? I don't know. I guess
maybe.
We'll see.
No, I mean maybe the existing TV mode to some extent, but I mean, It's a balance, isn't it, with the mobile? Because you not the thing has to underclock itself, so it doesn't overheat in your hand. For one thing,
that's true.
And also doesn't spin the fans too much to run the batteries down and things like that.
But if it's that much more powerful with the same games, then it could be possible, right?
Well, this is the other part of the problem. Just in terms of the technology, if DLSS is what they're using to achieve 4K, DLSS you don't get for free. Games have to specifically be designed with DLSS. Someone has to do the deep learning.
They have to train it. Yeah. But you could train it on any game, presumably. Right.
See, I don't think that's. I think the developers have to do that. I don't think it's something NVIDIA just throws in. They might pay or do a deal with perhaps some of the bigger developers to be like, "Please, can you do this?" Maybe. I imagine there's some backdoor shady deals with NVIDIA and the Final Fantasy 15 or something. When
it's probably not that hard to do. I wouldn't have thought, if they've got their tooling any good.
I've got no idea.
Presumably, you just need to run the game as fast as possible on a dev kit, that's overpowered, at 4. Do you have to? I guess you have to run the game at 4K on a giant PC equivalent dev kit, and then compare that, and then also run it at 720, and then train, right, to say this is your target. Every frame is this is the target, right?
Okay, to some extent, yeah. I mean, I imagine there'll be a bit of that and a bit of like where the developers, I guess, will probably have to get involved is things with like UI, for instance, because most games that do like active resolution or dynamic resolutions will split the UI out into a different layer. Yeah. So it's not affected by any kind of resolution trickery going on. So I guess that's where the devs need to get involved to do the specific splits.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? This is all rumors, isn't it? Still.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I'm kind of on the side that I don't think this is a thing. Like, I don't know, not yet. Maybe not yet. I don't know that Nintendo need that. You know what I mean? It's not. It's kind of.
But if they can make
them to go for something that go for a power jump.
But they definitely are not at the stage of a new console, but new hardware probably means they can make more money. Probably. So.
Oh yeah, we're not. Yeah. I mean, it's been a little while since Switch Lite, I guess. Now. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it sits with Nintendo. Like, they just need games. I don't think they need hardware. They need games.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess if the Switch Pro ran Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where they should be putting all their power. As we've always said about Nintendo, really. It's like they shouldn't care at all about graphics, and they generally don't. But like AI upscaling, I mean, does that really count as caring about graphics? I don't know, but surely just put more power into making everything run better.
Yeah. But it does mean you're not changing the target resolution of Switch games at all. They just run the same as ever, except a bit more, hopefully, with better performance. And then the AI takes care of making it not look mushy on a giant 4K TV.
Yeah, to some degree. Although, to be honest, I don't really have a problem with like how modern TVs upscale 1080.
Do their upscale, yeah.
Yeah, from 1080 to 4K generally looks pretty good unless your face, nose into it. It's decent. It's decent enough. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought a bit there, but it's like the only time I can think they did that was the new 3DS, and there were certain there was only a couple of games that I think absolutely required the new 3DS.
I don't think there'll be any for the Switch that require the new console. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've been looking. I assume they've been looking at what Microsoft and Sony have been doing, and they're just sort of like, yeah, I guess we could do that. We did it before, right? And it was fine. But the new 3DS was such a tiny step up from the previous one. Like, apparently it helped. Well, I think it was Hyrule Warriors, funnily enough.
Right.
I think that was one of the main games to benefit from it. But yeah, that's the rumor mill. Out this year is the other big rumor with that. So
right, depending on shipping and COVID and world global chip shortage or whatever it is.
Suez Canal
blockages. Yeah. Can you even get? I'm presuming there's stock of Switch around these days. It's not like the Wii in the old days where you couldn't get it.
Yeah, I think that's stabilized. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was at one point because we've got a spare Switch dock, and so I've got which I got with my flatmate, but I'm swapping that for something else. So I'll have 2 docks, but I was a bit worried because apparently there was a shortage of those official Nintendo plastic docks,
right?
Switch docks. So I've managed to secure 2 of them.
Man, I looked at the whole GPU crisis again. I shouldn't have done that. It's like
oh man,
it is scary, isn't it? It's just like impossible, literally impossible to get hold of anything.
Yeah,
just have to hope mine doesn't explode. Because like I'm of the opinion where it's like, well, if it was to die now, I'd just replace it, but that's not a thing because of the shortages.
You can't buy them. Yeah. It's crazy.
Don't buy PCs right now.
Stick to consoles for the time being, if you can find one.
You need the NVIDIA team. What else is going on? Industry news. Microsoft is making moves to buy Discord.
Are they? Is this still a thing, or has this been discounted? Or
I don't know. I haven't seen any news of them of that going away.
I guess they bought Bethesda. I mean, they're splashing the cash, aren't they?
Yeah,
it would make sense.
They already also bought Skype. Remember that audio transmission device that they purchased and then didn't really do shit with, and then it just kind of faded into the background.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it'll be good for Discord. Probably not. And I mean, I read an article saying that Sony would benefit more from Discord than Microsoft.
Well, yeah, because Discord, most of what Discord does is already a bit Xbox Live-y anyway. It's just, platform agnostic, which is its trick. And I guess that is the direction Microsoft want to go with Xbox Live and all
that's
that.
True.
It feels like it could be a fairly natural replacement for what... Oh, sorry, I shouldn't call it Xbox Live anymore. That's the other thing. It's now called Xbox Network.
Oh, so it's then no more on Xbox Live?
Yeah, although the Gold subscription is still called Xbox Live Gold.
Weird.
Because you've got Xbox Live Gold and you've got Xbox Game Pass and you've got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. But the service itself, the underlying service, is now called Xbox Network. Yeah, I think that's weird. That's a weird... It feels wrong to me, that does. Probably more than this Discord thing. It's just why did you change the name? It's always been Xbox Live. Everyone knows what it is.
Yeah, it's famous.
Unless it's games for Windows Live.
Well, but even that, it's kind of you know what that is? It's bad Xbox Live on PC. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I don't think buying Discord is probably the worst move.
No,
but they've just got a terrible track record with what they do with these services. As Zach pointed out.
At least Amazon didn't completely fuck up Twitch, I guess.
The Twitch is mostly untouched, I think, by Amazon.
Mostly.
Other than, the Prime subscription.
Yeah. I actually forgot they got bought by Amazon. Because back in the day, it was Microsoft was embrace, extend, and extinguish, right? Wasn't it?
Right.
But I mean, it's a bit unfair. I mean, I think they're doing relatively good by the things they bought recently, like GitHub, for example.
I don't know. What? Microsoft, sorry. Yeah. I thought you were talking about Amazon still. It's Amazon.
Oh, no, not
the people they bought.
No, not Amazon. No, Microsoft.
Yeah, they've had a decent run of late. I mean, let's hope that the acquisition of Bethesda means we no longer have to deal with BethesdaNet.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, I guess. But really, I mean, did we ever have to deal with Bethesda?
Well, apparently there's I only found this out the other day because I was watching Digital Foundry's video on the Game Pass versions of Evil Within and Nier Automata, and because they are subtly different versions. There's a first-person mode that was added to the Evil Within, and you can't go into first-person mode unless you've attached the game to your Bethesda net. It's that's the thing they held back for some reason. And I think you had to log into BethesdaNet before you could play Doom Eternal's campaign and stuff like that. It's the campaign, goddammit.
Didn't they? I remember that being a controversy at the time, but I think they patched that.
I mean, it was there when I played it. It was there when I played it anyway, but maybe they did that afterwards. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, BethesdaNet's dumb. It's more dumb than Uplay.
Yes, but all that secondary services are dumb. Battle.net or whatever it's called now.
It's not like you play many Blizzard things on console. I suppose Overwatch is relatively healthy on console, but
You play probably just as many Blizzard things as you would Bethesda things.
That would be true if Blizzard put out many games.
Yes, but Bethesda doesn't put out games you care about.
Also true. Yeah, so there's that. Discord's cool though. I like Discord.
Yeah.
So get ready for it to be shit.
Yeah.
I think that's harsh.
Its voice systems work surprisingly well. The fact that you can like set aside Teams-esque chat rooms and then just drop into a voice room for them at any time. It's kind of neat. I know that's sounding very slacky at this point, but it's
It is a bit slacky, like Discord actually. But Slack is obviously for it's got a lot of the same features, but like one's pitched for gamers and the other is pitched for office workers. But it's surprisingly similar. You could just use Discord to run a business, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't know. Can you privatize Discord? Or is everything...
Maybe that.
I mean, you guess you have to be invited to rooms, but I don't know how locked down those are.
Can you have your own org? Because that's how Slack works, right? You can have completely separate orgs. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've got no idea about that side of it. But then again, Discord Teams is also similar now, right? So it's...
Yeah, I mean, they're caught up with Slack pretty much in terms of features. Well, maybe not all of them, but quite a few.
I find Teams mildly confusing to navigate, but, that's by the by.
Yeah. Does Teams have threads in... I haven't used Teams. Does Teams have threads in channels? So you can start a thread off a message in a channel?
I don't know. I think it's got a sort of hybrid where you can just have... Well, meetings definitely have threads.
Right.
Or an equivalent thereof. So if you have a calendar entry and everyone was in a call for it, the chat for that call, or the text chat for that call is split off into a separate thing that will stay in your history. So that's how I get back to previous conversations sometimes, because we had them in the Scrum channel and it's like, oh, okay, I need to get... which one of those? But sometimes, because of the nature of meetings, you end up with multiples of those. So it's like, okay, which one of these Scrum chat channels is it in? But yeah, I think it tends to work like that. If you invite lots of people to a call, then it will spawn something automatically for it.
Anyway,
so I remember getting very confused at first by do I need to talk to the developers group? And it's like, oh no, that's actually got some management in it. That's not who I want to be talking to.
Right, need a slightly different group for that. Yeah. Sometimes you get management just hanging out in those groups, just monitoring.
Lurkers.
Well, whatever.
That's not what I'm
lurking.
What else is Microsoft up to then, I guess? I suppose we were talking about them buying Bethesda a second ago. It's like they made that money back 3 times over that they spent on Bethesda recently on HoloLens sales to the US military.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
That's funny. Is that an actual product then? I guess not. I guess it's a military product, like a defense product.
Yeah, I guess for something.
Not a consumer product. But
when they're going to move all their drone pilots off 360 controllers onto HoloLens.
Yeah.
On more positive note, you can now play some OG Xbox and Xbox 360 games on Game Pass Cloud. Just saying that's a thing, which is quite funny to juxtapose next to Sony shutting down the PlayStation 3, PSP, and Vita stores in August. So it's like, Microsoft's still going back as far as they can to feel like, hey guys, come play all our games. And Sony's like, no, play our new games. It's a very different approach, really.
Yeah. And obviously, clearly one is way cooler. Right?
I mean, obviously the Microsoft approach feels better, right? There's no denying that. But I mean, Sony's approach is the traditional approach, right? They've just sunset everything and be like, we're done with that now and move on.
Yeah.
Which is fine, I guess. It's fair enough. It's those PS3's old, right? It's like 2 generations ago now. But
I guess.
But it does kind of suck, because it means you can't re-download things you bought if you deleted them from your console past August. So, get downloading now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why that shouldn't be on some server somewhere for whoever wants to Because it's not like everyone has a physical cartridge anymore for all the stuff they bought in the 80s. You know, if you dust off your PS3 and, I don't know.
I mean, some people don't have all their old cartridges.
But that's what I mean. But do you have all your old PS3 files?
Well, probably not. There's probably some stuff that's not, was downloaded and have not kept on the hard drive. Not that much, actually, because weirdly I was looking at I was thinking about, like, I was telling Zach about this earlier. PS3 emulation is getting pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So I thought about giving that a go, and then I got to the point where it's like, well, I've downloaded the emulator. It's like, but what game do I actually want to play?
Yeah,
that's actually quite a question mark. Like, what do I actually want to? I mean, I guess Journey was around that time. That was PS3, right? So that would be decent. Or, but then, like, if you think about the Uncharted, it's like, oh hey, like I've got the Nathan Drake collection, which I can play on my PS4.
Yeah. Burnout Revenge.
Did that come out on PS3? I don't know. I guess it must.
I remember it coming out on the new.
It came out on 360.
Yeah. Did it come out on PS3?
I don't know. I know Paradise did. I don't know, but yeah, interesting. But I was just thinking, like, there aren't that many PS3 games that I probably would actually want to play that were specifically PS3 games.
Is there a Katamari Damacy on the PS3?
I think that there may be one that may have not made it to other platforms. But I've got a bit confused because I think it's got the same name as one that came out on the 360, but it's actually a different game. Something like that. Yeah, not sure about that either. I mean, I guess there's things like Tokyo Jungle that I think only came out on PS3. Or the original version of Wipeout HD Fury. But, Omega Collection exists now. So
yeah.
I mean, you can still play. You could still do that. It's got the better soundtrack, HD Fury, than the Omega version. But yeah, so I kind of got stuck at that point, and I was like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe I won't try this right now.
Yeah.
Although I will say, SCP Toolkit for getting a PlayStation 3 controller working in Windows works very well.
Oh.
I'm now using that as my primary controller on PC.
PS3 controller?
A PS3 controller, yeah.
Do you prefer that to the 360 pad then?
I don't know. I don't think I prefer it. It's just that my 360 pads are knackered.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry.
They all get a bit old and a bit used now. Whereas my PS3 pads are all in pretty good condition. Yeah. That's
Rob's the hands that destroy controllers.
Well, yeah, and the PS3
or Xbox controllers specifically, at least.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The PS3 controller seems to withstand the Rocket League crunch, which the X-Bone, and I don't want to even try it on the new controller for the Series X. Yeah, they don't withstand me. I managed to crunch another one recently. So it's just, I cannot. The way I clench that controller is clearly not compatible with how those sticks are made. So there's that. What else we got in news? I can't read my notes because they're too far away.
Something about Counter-Strike and the FBI cracking down on the match fixing.
Yeah, that's a thing. The FBI started taking an interest in CSGO match fixing because betting on esports has been legalized and regulated in America now. Not for very long, but it is. So it's like as soon as you get like that scene starting to appear, it becomes a concern. So
especially when everyone's at home and you know. Normal sports have trouble with crowds and things.
Apparently it's rife. Like, the CSGO scene is like really rotten.
With like people throwing matches.
Yeah,
right?
Basically.
Right. Traditional match fixing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like not even anything clever. It's literally just that. Just players playing not to their strength. Or not up to their standard.
So that will be annoying as soon as the FBI comes down on that and that has to stop, and then they do get clever.
Yeah.
Once you get into like actual hacks, that's going to be a much more of a problem for government agencies to deal with, because they won't know what the shit's going on.
Depends how those tournaments are run, though, isn't it? Because like most, like the highest of the high profile CS:GO tournaments are all done on closed rigs, right? Rigs you don't have access to.
You do still hear of people getting away with some ridiculous shit. There was like, I think there was a Smash Brothers tournament where someone actually hacked their character to be better.
Wait, what?
Inside a tournament, and I don't know how they pulled that off, but if they can pull that off in a fucking Nintendo game.
I mean, do they run Melee on like emulated systems?
They do occasionally use like modern versions of Melee, so it may have just have been like the person who gave them the modern version of the game they were going to use had seeded it with this specific modification for this one guy.
I've been meaning to try out, was it the at some point the M, I think they call it the M mod for Brawl.
Project M.
Yeah. See what that's like. It's like it's a because you can emulate the Wii pretty well now. They
right.
It's a modification to the Brawl version.
It was a modification to Brawl to try and make Brawl less bad, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that seems like it might be worth checking out. Feds. Keep away from the feds. Cyberpunk news. That patch came out. Mild improvements for PS4 Pro owners. Maybe they're edging closer to actually getting it released on PlayStation Store again. Maybe. And the other big Cyberpunk news, I guess, is just like, hey, they might not do that multiplayer mode if anyone was out there was at all excited for that. Which I certainly was not.
No, but I mean, with the amount of it might have been funny with the amount of jank open world jank in the single player.
I mean, that's probably the thing, right? It probably just wouldn't have been worked at all because of the amount of bugs that are in there. It's like I don't know, some of the stuff you see from Red Dead Online is going to be pretty hilarious, but imagine it 100 times worse.
I feel like Red Dead 2 Online has not taken off in the way that Grand Theft Auto Online did. Although I don't know.
I mean, GTA Online did take a while before it really did fly. But yeah, you're right. I feel like we're long enough into Red Dead Online to know whether or not it's going to take off like that or not. And it's just, there's not that much buzz about it.
No.
It is still being actively developed. There are still things happening in it, but it's, I mean, yeah, if you're not hearing about it, if the news isn't covering it all that much, then it can't be that good.
No.
Or that interesting. Maybe it's a bit too, like, actual role-playing-y for the masses. I don't know. Platinum. Other game announcements, I guess. Platinum Games are making a shmup.
Is that all we know?
Pretty much. I mean, it's based on some old 80s arcade games called Moon Crester and Terra Crester. And this one will be called Soul Crester. So yeah, a fairly classic shmup by the sounds of it. And it's like, is this one of their big projects or like whatever? It's like Platinum Games haven't put something out for a while now, I don't think. So it's like, is this just to tide them over until they actually start working on Bayonetta 3?
Come on.
I mean, I can't stress that enough. Come on.
Well, I'm sure it'd probably be fun, for sure, if they do a shoot 'em up.
I mean, they've sort of already dabbled with it, I guess, in their work on Nier Automata. There's some shmuppy elements there. I'm sure they can do it. I'm sure they can pull it off. What else we got? Final bit of news, I think. Just because I find it quite funny. And for the shout out to the Cambridge crew. Earth Defence Force is getting a new game called World Brothers, where they've changed the entire art style to be voxel based.
Voxels.
And
Everywhere you can see.
Yeah,
Nothing but
and I cannot wait for that to be even more of a ridiculous, unplayable mess.
Everything's going to collapse into sand.
It's just that, like, those games never run well. Like, never. Never have they managed to actually achieve a stable frame rate in an Earth Defense Force game. And it's like, I don't know if making voxels makes that better or worse. Probably worse.
As long as you can shoot rockets at it.
Oh, yeah. And fly, maybe. Or summon a tank. A voxel tank. Anyway, it looked kind of nuts. Those games are quite fun, but they are just, shooting giant insects with massive rocket launchers. Yeah.
Cool. That's the news.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. It's not a particularly interesting couple of weeks.
It's now time for what you've been playing. Rob, what have you been playing?
All right, then. Let's start with the big hitter. I have started playing Yakuza 3 Remastered. It was time. Enough time had passed.
Okay.
So
bring us up to speed on your Yakuza journey.
Okay.
Which games have you played and which ones are remakes and which ones
yeah. So far I've played Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2, which are ground up, total remakes of the first two Yakuza games.
Great.
So I've never played the originals of either of those. I've only played the Kiwami versions, and from what I gather, Yakuza 3, which is a remaster, it's not a ground up remake.
So it's not a Kiwami.
Not a Kiwami, no. So pretty faithful to the PS3 original. I think this is where I can understand why they perhaps haven't given this the Kiwami treatment, because I think this is where they started to find their flow, or like where the ground rules were set in stone for what a Yakuza game is.
Right.
Because even though it's PS3 era and the jank is up there, it's definitely not as polished as the Kiwami games were. Most of the elements are there, right? The way the story plays out, the way that a lot of the sounds are still the same. A lot of the fighting and the general structure of the game is pretty much all set. But you've got to set your expectations on this one. It's like it's 2007, I think. This came out originally, so it's 13 years of improvements you're not getting here. And it feels it. It definitely feels weird at first. It definitely feels a bit stiff to move around. The combat is not quite as tight. The upgrade system is way simpler than what I've seen in the previous games. For instance, like you gain experience from fights and sub stories as you did before, but you only have you can only linearly level up a few categories now, rather than having like a skill tree of some crazy variety or things like that. So that's all been massively simplified. Or as I say, it's probably not been simplified. This was probably the most complex it had been at this point. In reality. It's immediately I had a bit of a problem with some of it, because it was just like, okay, the sound is quite the sound balance isn't quite so nice as it was in the Kiwami ones. It's like it has those things where like every bit of text that appears on screen sort of like gets typed on screen, and it gets typed on screen with a sort of knocking noise. So it's like as text goes on.
Right. Yeah,
and then when you press the button, every time you press X or A on the Xbox controller to do something, it makes a sort of like a bang noise. So it's like and it's like I'd quite like to turn that down a bit if I can. You can't. There's no options for that, so it's like it's a bit much, and yeah, this was present in the Kiwamis as well, but those noises weren't quite so full on. I think they toned them back a little bit. So yeah, that got annoying pretty quickly, but I've zoned it out now, which is good. I've sort of just turned managed to turn that off a bit and just be like, that's just how this game is, which is fine. And yeah, it's more Yakuza, but so far I think it's very clearly the weakest entry, and I'm not just talking because it's the oldest one so far. I think just in terms of its story, it's not great this time. And I know for a fact that the main storyline in the Kiwami games wasn't hugely modified. The main line story was pretty much left as is. Cutscenes were almost identical, for instance. Like they let them play out in the same way. So, for this game to not quite be landing on that front is quite the disappointment, if I'm honest. Like, Kazuma Kiryu, the game starts where Kazuma Kiryu has moved to Okinawa now. He's left Kamurocho. He's trying to leave that Yakuza life behind that he keeps getting dragged back in, Godfather style.
He's going for the island life then.
Yeah, he's started his own. He's founded an orphanage. For him.
Okay,
he's founded an orphanage by blowing up a bunch of parents.
Probably, yeah. So the several hours at the start of the game is you faffing around in Okinawa, basically after these, basically trying to be a father figure to these kids, and it is cheesy and dull in all the wrong ways. There's an awful lot of fetch quests in Okinawa, and it's not all that much comedy. So like as an opener, it's pretty weak. Especially given that the prologue is actually throws in a massive plot twist right at the start, and you're just like, I really want to know what's going on. I really want, and then you've got to have hours of this like island life, bad island life sim. Where it's just it's an oddly paced thing. There's just too much of it, too much like nothing really happening, and then it starts to spruce up a little bit as you start meeting the local Yakuza, and as you do, it was bound to happen.
I mean, the clue is in the name.
Yeah, and then you get roped into and then a plot starts developing about the Yakuza and the government wanting the land your orphanage is on, and of course the story spirals out from there. But it's like that opening where there's just this massive plot twist that is actually in the attract sequence for the game. Before you even hit the start button, you can see the twist in this sort of like opening movie, and you're like, and it's like, oh, but that's such a big thing. It's like have they just spoiled the game? And it's like, and then it's right at the start, and it's like, and that's the central mystery for a while, and it's and if you won't know what it is unless you've played the previous game, so it's like for me, I'm just sitting there going, no. So that was kind of cool, and then you're stuck with this downtime for ages. And eventually you do actually get to go back to Kamurocho, because of course you do, and things pick up again. Like things get way better as soon as you're in Tokyo.
Right, gets back to in the swing of
Yakuza. Yeah. It almost feels like the Okinawa and Tokyo sections are done by different teams. Like it's weird. Like the feel of them is very different, and it's like, oh, maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's just to give the like, hey, it's a bit slower out on the island. It's a bit, and then you get to the bustle of Kamurocho, and it's like, yeah, things are a bit hectic and a bit mad here. It's and it's dangerous and exciting, and it's like, well, give me more of that. So I'm back in Okinawa now, and it's like, oh, everything's slowed right down again.
No. Back to island living.
Right, yeah. Do I want to just crap on through the main storyline, or like do I? But the problem with doing that is that's never really what these games are designed for. These games are designed to make you do the sub stories, because that's how you gain experience to level up and things like that. And you kind of do need to level up in preparation for the boss fights, because once again, boss fights are hard. Like the standard grunts you're going to fight all the time, pretty much a walkover. Whenever you get to a boss fight, you're going to be challenged, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But for the most part, I've made my peace with that. The boss fights are sometimes nonsense, and
nonsense.
Yeah, and just that's where the fighting system doesn't work for me half the time. Is like because you're bosses can do things. It's one of those games where like enemy characters can sometimes do things you can't. Like they'll just like shield hits while they're in the middle of winding up for a move or something, and it's like, well, can't I break you out of that? And obviously you can be broken out of anything you do, and like they can break out of combos that you wouldn't normally expect them to, things like that. And so it becomes a bit of a learning exercise to be like, all right, against this guy, what can I get away with? Or did I happen to bring a particular weapon that is effective against this guy? Do I happen to be carrying something that I can just burn through in order to get rid of this boss easier? So the bosses still have that, and the bosses tend to have way too much health. That's another thing. That's also standard. They are quite spongy. But all of that is nothing new. That's exactly what's been before. But those are the highlights of the game. That's it's got the things you remember. It's like, oh yeah, that fight was real crazy and dumb, and it had this thing that happened in the middle of it. But even though it's got a little bit of that, I don't think it's yet. I'm yet to see the heights of the crazy and dumb that the Kiwami stuff did, or the first storylines did. Like I haven't come across a shogun, a golden shogun castle that comes out of the split remains of a previous shogun castle, and then rises up from the floor to be about 3 times bigger than the previous one.
So, do you think those Kiwami Total remakes emphasize the crazy that was present in the original game?
I think they do, because I think the things Kiwami did, like, definitely improved upon were the sub stories and everything around the edges. Like they didn't necessarily. They may not have touched the main story, but I get the feeling that everything around the outside of the main story was worked on and touched up. Because most sub-stories in this so far have degraded into a fetch quest. Like, go here, get me this thing, bring it back. Or fight a guy for a thing, bring it back. Or, at worst, press the right conversation prompt, which is painfully obvious. But then every now and then you get a touch of gold. It's like they're few and far between. And I think the writing on those especially is just a lot less good than it was in the Kiwamis. But then again, the Kiwamis probably could have been worked on. They probably could have been touched up. And I know a lot of the mini games in Kiwami were added after the fact. They borrowed stuff from Yakuza 6, for instance, in Kiwami 2, to make those sub games better. Which is painfully obvious in that there's a hostess mini game in this one as well. But it's the worst. Like, it's really bad. It's just tedious. Yeah. And I don't really understand what's going on. Like, instead of like running a club this time, you're basically managing a single hostess and trying to dress them and into the right clothes that the current clientele are after, and then or the right sort
creepy.
Of yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is creepy, obviously.
A little, yeah. And then, or like during your break times, train them on specific aspects that they're not good at. Again, for the current clientele, and it's like, but that system doesn't. It's just, it's really dull. It just doesn't really work very well. It's not clear how you're supposed to be achieving your objectives, and like sometimes you just don't, because you say do this thing, and it goes nah, and it's like, okay, why did that not happen? I don't fully understand. So I might maybe that's something I won't engage with too much.
Do you think the hostess games in the Kiwamis were faithful recreations of the original, or do you think they would be even simpler than this? Yeah,
I don't think they existed in the originals.
So do you think they basically put in the latest and greatest hostess minigames from the latest Yakuza into those Kiwami ones?
I think Kiwami 2 nicked its hostess game directly from 6.
From 6, yeah. Okay.
And modified it a bit. And also there's the Majima construction game, which I think may have been severely upgraded from the one that was in the original. Which is their sort of tower defense thing. I don't think that was nearly as fleshed out as it ended up being in Kiwami 2.
Right.
It's as I said before, I think it's the stuff around the edges where they put an awful lot of work in to really make sing. There's some nods, and I wonder if they've changed some dialogue in 3 in places, because they were like, there's a bit where it's like, oh, this rings a bell. There's like this, like where when you like start doing a hostess, start getting involved in that, it goes, oh, that rings a bell, and it's like, but it doesn't like fully address the fact it's like, oh, you don't just know your stuff. You just in the previous game, you ran a club to be the best in Japan. It's like, right, yeah, it doesn't just ring a bell. This was only 2 years ago.
yeah, you were super hardcore at the time.
It's
I remember this.
It's very weird, but it's still a Yakuza game. I'm still enjoying it overall, but it's not a patch on the Kiwamis.
On the Kiwamis.
I'm kind of invested now. Like, I don't want to skip ahead to 6.
Couldn't you go backwards to 0 or whatever?
I forget where 0 fits in. I think you probably could go back to 0 at any time.
Right.
It's one of those where it's like it's a prequel, but it has knowing nods.
Okay.
To things in the future. I forget where 0 came out. I think it came out before Kiwami. So maybe before Yakuza 6. So if I finish 5, then I can go back to 0. And then
oh, bad.
And then at some point, eventually get to Like a Dragon. Although you can jump into Like a Dragon at any time because it's not a follow-on. Hey, there's a lot of Yakuza games. Yes, that's what I'm spending most of my time on. It's a bit of dumb punching. It's always good. I've ended up sticking with Dirt 5 in the end. I don't quite. I'm not sure I quite understand why. I think like a lot of the races have actually started leaning more towards the cars that I think are more fun to drive. The faster cars, like the straight rally cars, for instance, and less of an emphasis on the slow ash trucks that you get at the start of the game. I think all my problems that I mentioned before still stand, though, in that I don't like how the AI drives. I don't like the collision model. I think it's weirdly mushy and doesn't feel right at any point, and it's not quite there. I dabbled with the online play and thought that was weak. Just a shame because I thought that might actually be where that game might sing because you don't have to put up with the AI.
Right.
But that wasn't particularly satisfying. But I mean, there are bits of it that are good. Like I think the actual driving model is fine. Like it's not great. It's quite arcadey, but it's fine. It's sort of weirdly. It's just enough. I think, especially when you're driving the faster cars and you're possibly being challenged to deal with the course a little bit more precisely than you would in the slow ash trucks. That's their official racing category now, slow ash trucks. It's all right. And there are times, like I said before, there are times where the game is really, really, really good looking because of its dynamic lighting model. It's all right. You can just play, have a couple races, put it down. But what I didn't expect is that I mean, last time you may remember, I had a real rant at it for doing these cheesy ass podcast things. Like the sort of bad storytelling that Dirt always seems keen on doing. And I don't know, it's getting better. it's getting surprisingly.
You're getting into it.
It's getting surprisingly all right.
Okay.
Because what I didn't realize, right? Because I just thought, they've probably got racing drivers to do these voiceovers, or like actual podcast hosts to do these voiceovers,
right?
In terms of the racing drivers, I couldn't have been further from the truth. They are, in fact, Nolan North and Troy Baker.
What?
AJ is played by Troy Baker and is your kind of mentor guy. Who goes into a bit of a rivalry with this guy called Bruno, who I think is played by Nolan North, and and
it's the Drake brothers.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but I kind of don't mind just putting the controller down and just listening for a while now when these things happen. They started off ropey as, but they've because there's a storyline developing in them now. It's weirdly interesting.
My favourite is the hamburgers of Kazurai Miller. Do you know those audio tapes?
Yeah. That's a classic. So yeah, Dirt 5. That's probably, like, for the most part, that's actually probably me. You know, we've actually been playing quite a lot of Rocket League.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the season's coming to an end, so it's like, got to get the coloured crap.
Gotta get the coloured crap.
Got to get as much burnt sienna stuff as I can. Brown. You know, dabbling in Pacer still. That game's still quite good. Still quite, you know, getting on with it. It's fine. The one thing I will say about Pacer, actually, is like it's got this, every now and then it throws in a curveball event, which is like a one-off. Like, it's not like there's a mode for it or anything like that. It's like the campaign mode will just be to just do something weird. Like the last one I did was called Flowmentum, and it's a little bit like zone mode in that it's a survival challenge. But you go far. You have to hit these gates that are on the track in order to replace your shield and also increase your max speed. But your shield is always draining, so you have to go through these gates to keep your shield up. But every time you go through them, things get faster. So you're having to deal with the track and the speed increase, whilst also then positioning yourself to try and hit these gates. And it was just a bit of a curveball. It's like, you haven't done anything like this for the entirety of the rest of the game, and I'm most of the way through the campaign now, and it's just like, oh, it's weird. All right, but I kind of dig it. You surprised me. Weird that there isn't more of this. Yeah, so it's Pacer. Dabbled with Fuser a bit as well.
Fuser and Pacer.
Yeah, all the ers. I think I've said that exact same thing on the previous podcast. All the ers.
All the ers. Zach. What have you been playing?
Well,
no, that's not
no, I'm the ums. Rob's the
Okay.
So that's not true, because I haven't played any games that end with Wait, or have I?
Oh, have you? Opus Magnum.
There's Pokemon. That's fairly close.
Is it?
I don't want to play with your Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. I went back to Super Mystery Dungeon, I guess, on the 3DS.
Oh wow! Oh. Okay, the first one.
No, that's the second one.
Oh,
Super.
Super's in the name, yeah, I suppose.
So that doesn't mean anything. I don't even know why they decided to call that one Super. It's not like anything else on the 3DS was calling themselves Super or anything.
New Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it should have been. But it wasn't. It was Super for some reason. But yeah, I went back to that. And it was just like, you know, I don't think I really have anything new to say about it. I'll probably just end up saying the exact same things I said before, but it's been so long that I can't even remember what I said before. Like, you know, it's well, I guess it's sort of more relevant to what we've been talking about recently on the podcast, because it's another example of, like, here's a game that has Pokemon in it that's way better than actual Pokemon games, because it's not made by the Pokemon company.
By Game Freak, yeah.
Which is just like, yeah, I mean, even back then, same exact thing happening. Although, you know, it's a slightly different situation when it's, because, you know, Mystery Dungeon is not, you know, a Pokemon thing. It's a thing that you throw a random brand over, like Chocobo Mystery Dungeon or whatever.
Mm.
There's lots of other types of Mystery Dungeon games.
Have you played any of the others, or only the Pokemon ones?
No, only the Pokemon ones.
Right. So do you know how similar they are? Or?
Well, I've seen some of the Chocobo one, and it does look, you know, pretty much the same exact thing. Well, at least in terms of, like, how the, you know, dungeons are formed. I mean, maybe the actual mechanics of the fights could be slightly different. Pokemon kind of seems like it inherently lends itself to that format quite well. I mean, I think we talked about that before.
I think so.
Well. Because whereas, like, I think I've definitely said before, it's just like they should make a proper Pokemon Tactics game rather than that one that they did make, which was based on ancient Japan for some reason, but with Pokemon, which seemed quite good. Apart from it was just weird. It's just like, why would you put it in that setting?
I mean, ancient Japan was full of enemy crabs, so I mean...
well, yeah, or small enemy crabs. But yeah, Yeah, it does. I went back to it and it's just like, yep, this game is still good. It still has good music. It still has these Pokemon being better characters than any human in any Pokemon game ever has been.
I think that's the funniest thing about that.
That's quite funny.
And then
even more than Team Rocket.
Yeah.
I mean, they were characters in the anime, but not in the game.
No. Well, I mean, you do get Team Rocket in like the remakes of Red and Blue, right? Or Red and Green. They actually changed it so that, because you fight Team Rocket obviously you fight generic Team Rocket in the original, but they modified when they did the remakes to actually have the Team Rocket that you know from the anime.
Or had they done that in Yellow even? Because Yellow presumably was
they might have done it in
anime
Yellow.
tie-in, right?
Yeah, because of the Pikachu or whatever.
Yeah.
That might have been Yellow. I don't even remember. It was weird. But yes. I went through it again and was reminded of like, it's a sort of a problem that I was thinking about where it's just like, maybe it's just because we've been playing video games for so long, but it's just like I played this game and then I was thinking back to Gates of Infinity and it's just like, it's so easy to imagine a game that would just be a better version of this game.
Right.
Because all the things when I was like, because Super Mystery Dungeon doesn't have any of like the base building stuff that Gates of Infinity had, and it's like I kind of missed that because it was like it was a thing to do that wasn't just grinding the same, grinding the dungeons over and over. It was like a whole different, system, different mechanics built to give you something else to do, I guess. But they got rid of that, and it's just, and in some ways, there's bits of Super Mystery Dungeon where you can see where things that they've removed, but they haven't quite like fixed the stuff that's left. Like you get this type of seed that you eat, called a training seed, that makes your moves level up faster, only on the floor of the dungeon that you're currently on. So you can basically sort of grind your moves to improve them. But there's two problems with that. The first is that there's now an explicit time limit. Like you can only stay on one floor of a dungeon for so long before it just kicks you out, basically. It's sort of like Spelunky or whatever with the ghost that appears and chases you away. Right. Sort of that, equivalent to that, which kind of negates the whole point of using this training seed that only lasts for the floor you're on. So you can't grind forever. And the second problem is that like there's that whole leveling up your moves mechanic also had like a second part to it in the base building element of Gates of Infinity, where you could build like dojos where you could train moves that way. And Super Mystery Dungeon almost doesn't really tell you about the moves upgrading. Like it has the little icon that tells you what level the move is, and you can see the progress bar going up as you use the move more and more. And it has like a single page of a hint where it's like, oh, your moves level up as you use them. But that whole system is almost like forgotten about, but it still exists in the game.
Weird.
You don't get like a fanfare, you mean, when you hit the progress?
Well, I mean, you get a little effect, and it says in the text box that it's leveled up, but it's just like there's no other way to level it up other than just grinding it in the dungeons. It's not really. It's just something that happens. It's not something that you really do intentionally any longer. And even if you try and do it intentionally using the training seeds, they've made it so you can't do that very well either.
You're not just engaging with it.
Yeah,
is that just difficult to do?
Well, it's because like I said, the training seeds only last for one floor of the dungeon, and the dungeons kick you out.
Yeah.
So it's quite weird. There are a few little bits and pieces like that. All of the sort of seed stuff where you used to be able to grow more of the seeds, like you could grow the training seeds in a field in your base, and therefore get more training seeds, and therefore be able to grade your levels easier. But now you just very occasionally get a training seed, and you can't grow more. You just have to get lucky, which again also makes them even more rare and not actually useful.
Do you want some seed, Pete?
But apart from that, it's a totally good version of that game, and includes all the Pokemon at the time.
That's the key thing.
720 of them.
Oh, blimey.
which is actually kind of weird as well, because like all of the Pokemon that you've recruited level up at the same time. Like any experience you earn in the dungeon, everyone gets. And there's also a shop in the town where you can just change moves for free. Because obviously in the mainline Pokemon games, there was the move tutor guy where you could go and see him and he could swap out moves that you've already learned if you'd forgotten them or whatever. It's basically that, except it's free and you can do it for every single Pokemon, and it just remembers. It doesn't remember moves that they've learned. It remembers every move that they could have possibly had at that level.
Oh wow!
Oh right, so you can choose.
So you can just choose whatever moveset you want for every Pokemon you have. So yeah, that's kind of ridiculous in that way.
Yes, there's an awful lot to play with, basically.
Yeah. And also because of the specific mechanics of the Mystery Dungeon universe, like how it works mechanically, it actually is, different from how Pokemon works normally. And that, again, makes it slightly more interesting for if you've played a bunch of Pokemon.
If you've played Pokemon your whole life.
You'll actually use moves that you never would have bothered with before, because it's like, in this game, they actually are sort of useful.
Mm-hmm.
Or they work differently enough. I think there might be a gear grind.
Oh, okay. That's quite a grind. I just thought it would be quite funny to be when you're grinding moves. It's like I'm grinding grind.
Yeah, I don't think there's just one called grind. And then, that's pretty much all there is to say about that, I guess. I probably will continue playing it. Because the other trouble, of course, is because this is a Pokemon-esque game on the 3DS, you only get one save, so I had to delete my old save to start over. It's like, oh no, look at all this progress I'm about to delete. Although I made sure not to look at it too hard, so I didn't feel too bad about deleting all this progress. Just like, I'm just not going to look at the save file. Just delete it.
Don't look at the hour count.
No, don't look at how many Pokemon I'd already recruited on this save file. I think I'm up to like 300 on this new run, so I'm like theoretically getting towards halfway through, except it's not, definitely not a linear amount of Pokemon getting unlocked. They come in bursts, and I think I've gone through the main, like, easy stuff. It's definitely getting to the point where I might actually have to grind for levels just to be strong enough to fight some of the hardier dungeons. So there's that. I briefly went back to play some runs of Into the Breach for some reason. I don't really know why. But I did a couple.
I recently uninstalled that.
I get tempted to play that sometimes.
Yes, you clearly should. Go back and play more of it.
I've forgotten all the teams, though.
Well, sure. But
I mean, I never got past the first one.
Really?
Well, one day we'll make a video of it, just like we did with FPL.
Yeah, I guess.
The first one's the shoving one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, they all kind of are the shoving ones.
Yeah, it's true.
The first one especially.
It's one of those games that it's just a bit too... The run is too long for me, so I do it like, by the time I've spent hours and hours scrutinizing every move only to get boned up on the last bloody mission... There's only so much of that I can take before it's just like, yeah, I'm not going to do this again.
I remember my only problem with that game was I needed a difficulty in between two grades, I think.
Between easy and normal.
Yeah.
I mean, that was true of FTL as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, easy was always too easy in both of those games. And normal.
See, I didn't try easy mode. I just stuck with normal.
No, exactly. Because easy was too easy. Even if you didn't know, you could kind of tell. Although it's a bit more explicit in Into the Breach because it literally tells you where it's just like choosing easy makes enemies like 2 less enemies spawn per wave and hard makes 2 more enemies spawn per wave.
Why can't I have a mode which is 1 more enemy per wave?
Just make it a slider.
Yeah, please.
But yeah, I went back to that, and I started a fresh save file and just was like, I'll just start with the basics. Not that there's really anything that you unlock. I mean, you unlock the extra different pilots and the teams, of course, but you don't really unlock anything else apart from that. So I went back and just did the first team and the second team again and won both of them because I'm good at that game, apparently.
Yeah, you were
On normal. Not like I've ever done a hard run. I should probably try a hard run at some point. If I can think of a
the thing is that, like, even though that game is obviously all pixel art and everything, it does do some decent kind of world building, and it is quite depressing if you lose. Because isn't it some kind of hellscape time loop where you just say, "Oh fuck that reality, that one's screwed. Let's do a new one," and everyone on that earth is definitely dead.
Star Renegades was the same when I dabbled with that. That was the exact same plot line. It's like, yeah, you basically say, "Oh, we've lost this reality. Jump to another one."
But I don't lose, so it's no problem.
So
in my universe, it's all great.
Well, except the one loop, it must have gone bad for you to have the time ability, right?
Well, okay, yeah. The intro of the game, where there is that one where he's like open the breach or whatever, where he's standing next to the giant robot right at the start of the game. But I guess there is always one.
Help. Yeah.
And I managed to get one more achievement that I'd never got before.
That's good.
Which was unfortunate because it's not on my main save file. I mean, obviously the Steam achievement, I got that, but the achievement built into the game that gives you like another coin to unlock another team or whatever. Well, I think I've already unlocked all the teams anyway, so I don't think I need that coin on my main save.
What was it though?
It was the do 12 damage in a mission with smoke, with the smoke team. Because somehow I didn't get that the first time I won the smoke team.
Is that a team that doesn't really do damage then?
Well, they do.
Smoke.
They do. Like they have their starting equipment. They have the electro smoke, so the smoke does 1 damage per turn. But that relies on the enemies being in the smoke at the end of the turn, and also you not killing them any other ways. But yeah, once you get the upgrade to the electro smoke, so it does 2 damage a turn, and once you get used to the idea of just putting a shit ton of smoke everywhere and forcing the enemies to stand in it, you can definitely get that achievement.
You can get that 12, yeah.
Because that run with the smoke team, I got kind of lucky where... Well, there was 2 things that made it way better. The first one was from my previous run, the pilot I brought through time was one of the robot pilots who have their special abilities. They need power to turn on. Like they need a reactor core instead of in the mech. They need a reactor core for themselves to use their special ability. Right. But the one that this guy has is he moves again after he shoots. So you basically get 2 movements per turn.
That sounds effective.
And because of the way the jet in the smoke team, you jump over the enemy and drop drop a smoke bomb on them. That can be really awkward to use because you're putting yourself in out of position in the process of your attack. But with this guy's ability, where you move again after you attack, it's just like
it's no problem.
You move in there, you do your attack, and then you just move away.
Easy.
And then later on in that run, I didn't think it was going to be as this upgrade always seems like it's not worth that much, but I got the upgrade that lets you not take damage when you're blocking a spawn. Right. So I put that on, and I was like, oh yeah, I could have that guy sitting on top of a spawn at the start of his turn, block the spawn, move, attack, and then just fly back and land on top of that spawn again.
It's just like a magic combo type thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you break the game by finding 2 things that work together.
Yeah.
I forgot you took damage from blocking a spawn. That always felt a little bit harsh to me. It's like I made the effort of being in...
Yeah.
Well, you're meant to block the spawns with other enemies, though. That's the real thing.
Yeah.
And then the other upgrade that worked incredibly well with that team on that run was because you have the push mech that only has the push at the start, where it just shoves everything around it away. The upgrade that I got for that was where instead of pushing everything away, it just smokes every tile around it. And obviously, because I'm playing the team where the smoke is electric, I'm just like, oh, that's just like another attack. Just dumps a whole 5 squares of smoke onto the land. Which again, with that team, all you're trying to really do is just cover as much space as possible with smoke. Because the enemies won't intentionally go into smoke because they can't do anything in the smoke. Because with you also, you can't attack from inside smoke, and neither can the enemies. So they won't move into a smoke tile usually unless they don't have any other choices. So if you just smoke enough of the train, those missions become quite easy because the enemies just sort of sit in the corner.
Right, they've got nowhere to go.
Yeah. And it also helps you if you want to like defend an objective. You can just smoke all the tiles adjacent to it, and then melee attacking enemies can't even attack it, basically, because they won't path into because they literally can't attack from those tiles any longer. So yeah, that's Into the Breach. The one thing I was kind of hoping to do, but also not, because I was not on my main save file. I've never unlocked any of the like secret team, there's actually 2 secret teams, and I've never seen any of the like unlock things for them. Because one of the secret teams is like it's basically FTL. You get like some of the species out of FTL.
Oh, cool.
But those you have to find like there's occasionally a specific tile has like a little glowing dot on it on a mission, and then you have to like destroy that tile to trigger a drop pod, but it's an FTL drop pod, and then you have to get that to get those pilots. I don't think I've ever seen any of those glowing tiles spawn though, because that's just random. And then there's also the secret mech team rather than pilot team is like, well, it's not a mech team, you play as enemies.
Oh, okay.
But I don't even know what the unlock condition for that is. So yeah, I mean, I should probably actually play my main save file again next time.
Right.
Rather than risking unlocking stuff on a separate save file.
Get all the teams on the main file.
Yeah. See how complete I can make it. Do a hard run at some point. I did look at my main save file and then remembered that my best scoring team ever was the 3 ice cannons. Even though they can't actually do any damage, that was still the best scoring team because they're so good at just holding the enemy down.
Because ice is so sharp and what was it?
Hard and sharp and icy
sharp.
texture. But like, I suppose
Icy.
icy to describe ice is a bit much.
Yeah, fair enough.
That ice is well icy.
The all ice team still the best.
I still think about that opening for a segment on that Nick Frost Danger Incoming Attack where he's like sucking at an ice cube and he just goes, ice, nice, no. I can't find that because I think I had the DVD of Danger 50,000 Volts somewhere, but I don't know. They should be on YouTube, but they're not, I don't think.
Maybe. And then I guess the only other thing that I played was like a tiny bit more Satisfactory, but I haven't really been doing much of that. Mainly because, well, I said I was on the experimental branch, and because it's the experimental branch, things were getting occasionally fucked up.
A bit wonky.
Like when they tried to fix the zipline mechanics and it made you just throw yourself a million miles into the air instead.
Awesome.
Fun, but not actually very helpful. And also, I think I said this before the last time I played Satisfactory, or well, the first time I played Satisfactory even, but like, the map is kind of annoying once you know anything about it. Like, because it's not random or anything, it's a perfectly fixed map and you know, it's all preset. But once you know where like the good locations are for whatever resource you need, it kind of ruins the whole. You don't want to build anywhere else except for the best locations. So you're like, I've
so
scanned.
Then you end up in the same place every time.
Yeah, so then you just end up doing the exact same thing every time.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's a very large map, so you can, like, if you do choose to start at one of the less optimal locations, I guess you could say, you're like, I know where all the good shit is, but it's so far away, that's actually quite a lot of effort. But it doesn't necessarily prevent you from doing it.
Well, setting yourself the challenge of starting somewhere not so good and then getting over to the good stuff.
I feel like, in reality, that game should be able to have some randomization. I mean, they may not be able to have a randomly generated map, but you could theoretically, relatively easily, I would imagine, just make the like resource deposits random. Because it should just be like the resource deposit should just be a location that resource spawns onto, right? And since all the resource deposits are effectively the same, it's just like a patch that you slap a mining drill on top of. You shouldn't need to redesign anything about that.
That's true.
So in theory, they could make the resources randomized at least, maybe. I mean, it wouldn't fit with the design of the world as well, because you do have a kind of the coal is in the sort of volcanic-y area, and the sulfur is down near the hot springs. But having it be random would kind of make it more interesting.
Yeah, I think. Could be an easy option to add anyway.
Yeah. But we'll see. They're still working through their actual tech tree at the moment. The last patch has just been quite a significant rebalance of all the aluminium stuff. Although that doesn't affect me any, because I've never got to the aluminium stage. Even in my original save, where I got much further than I have on this run, I'd only just unlocked aluminium, I think, and I hadn't got around to actually building any of it, because I was redesigning the entire rest of my base, which naturally takes ages.
Do you think the game will be moddable enough to have custom maps?
Yeah, I don't know about the maps, because it's already been modded quite a bit. There's a lot of mods you can get for building, and naturally there's mods to try and emulate sort of blueprinting and that kind of stuff. Doesn't work quite as well as the mods do for Dyson Sphere Program, for example, that already have blueprinting in that. But the map is the trouble is, because it's just this one set fixed map, I don't know if there's even a way for the game to choose a different map. The actual physical construction of how that game loads into the world might not even allow you to change that. But if they wanted to, I'm sure that could be something they could put in at some point. It's just the developers themselves have always said, no, there's not going to be any secondary maps, there's not going to be any random maps. It's just this one map. We spent all this time making this one map and making it, because it's handcrafted, it's not randomly generated. So although admittedly that doesn't save it from all kinds of weird glitches and bits where the ground textures don't line up and there's just holes and you can see through the back of stuff because it's not properly blocked you off from going behind things, and it's not a perfect handmade world, that's for sure. Although admittedly some of that is just because it's just you can go anywhere and they don't necessarily hand design every single inch of that world. It's there are clearly just here's a big lump where there's just we've paintbrushed this, or voxel brushed, I guess, this lump of terrain into the world, and it's clearly you're not meant to go to the back of this, but you can, because you can just go anywhere. There's definitely some kind of ugly bits of geometry. But it's why would you go there unless you happen to have been flung a million miles into the air by a glitch on a zipline, for example.
But it's not like Motocross Madness where you get to the edge of the world and it explodes you back into the center.
I don't actually know what is actually at the edge of the world. On some sides of the map, there's just an infinite cliff, a bottomless pit. But I think on some sides of the map, there's just an ocean. I wonder what would happen if you just kept going out. You'd probably just die.
Hit some sort of kill plane eventually.
Yeah, probably. That's just pretty much all. Just Rocket League, apart from that.
Just Rocket League.
Yep.
I remember
you guys
something.
been playing League together?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit here and there, yeah.
Although Rob's been playing some more by himself, which is good.
Yeah, I've been spending some time in the extra modes. Honestly, not really playing the main football, just dicking around in the extra playlists. Because I find they're quite fun to not care about.
Well, that is, I did end up going into some of the extra modes a bit as well, mainly hockey, because that's the one that's most like the normal game. And I prefer it to be mostly normal.
I quite enjoyed hoops and drop shot, so I've been playing quite a lot of that.
Going into those and being unranked, and also because it's there's obviously much lower population, so your rank just springs around so much, it might as well be unranked.
Yeah.
But yeah, going into there, I was just like, I can not quite care as much. Not that I actually really care about rank, really. Or it's not so much that I don't care about it exactly, that it's like, I know what my rank is in the main game. I know that my rank is going to oscillate casually between like the top of Diamond and the bottom of Diamond, because that's just what happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, the next season of Rocket League is rapidly approaching. Not that that matters much either, of course.
No, I'm not so convinced by this season's styles, but as you sort of correctly said, it's like if you're in, you might as well stay in, because you just earn enough credits for the next pass that way.
Yeah, helpfully. And this next season you can get an F1 car because of crossovers, or a NASCAR if you're American.
Yeah, but those are probably paid, aren't they? They're not in the season.
Yeah, they're going to be stored. And I already have a fake F1 car anyway.
Yeah,
and it's much cooler.
Doesn't have the old school engine though, does it? It doesn't have like the V8s or the V12s or whatever they had before they changed everything to the V6s they've got now. The screaming engine.
I mean, the fake F1 car has quite an F1-y kind of engine.
Okay.
But I don't know. Presumably, the real F1 car that they're about to put in might actually have an actual F1 sounding engine, or current F1 sounding engine.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It'll probably be the current V6 engines, which just they just don't sound as cool as they used to.
I mean, they could change. I mean, do you think when they put in the Fords recently, do you think those trucks sound like the real Fords?
I don't know, actually. I have no idea what those.
They do have a quite distinct engine.
A bit burbly.
Yeah, definitely.
Burble, 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 burble.
I think that's it. I mean, things I haven't been playing and sort of news. I noticed that they've just released another big ass update to No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you've been into that yet.
Yeah.
The expeditions.
Well, the trouble is, it sounds like it's kind of a multiplayer thing.
It sounds like it's kind of a multiplayer thing, and it sounds like it's more of a guided experience.
Yeah. It sounds almost like
something with a point. Like everyone starts from scratch and then tries to work towards a goal.
Yeah, it sounds almost like a sort of a run. Like you're not really playing the game like you normally do, just traveling around or anything. You do a run almost.
Which could be fine, but how long does that take?
Yeah, exactly. And how much does it rely on the multiplayer?
I might go back, and it might mean that they fixed the crashiness from the creature update. So maybe I might go back to my normal play.
Well, I mean, sure, there's that. And there are a few other things that they've mentioned in the patches. Well, mainly that I'm sort of interested in the UI overhaul, because it's that game's UI has always been problematic in some ways.
But I don't know what they've really. It looks like it's just a style change rather than a full-on redesign.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not really a functional thing, but it might help a bit, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And when they show it in the trailer, they show the new scan visor, and I was trying to figure out whether I think that's better or not. It looks mostly the same, but I think it's a bit clearer, right?
Well,
because the scan visor can.
The problem with the scan visor was stuff you'd already colored. You'd already scanned, the color of which could sometimes be a bit annoying because it would be influenced by the color of the thing you were trying to scan. So if you're trying to scan blue things, it could be kind of difficult to tell whether you've scanned it or not yet.
But it definitely looks. I think it there's less of a blur effect over it, judging by the video. Maybe it's kind of hard to tell. Also, again, it's I barely remember what it used to look like, so I'll probably just go in and not even realize that it's actually that different.
Oh wait, which scan you're talking about? The sort of pulsey scan, or the
no, the actual visor scan.
Yeah, I thought the visor scan was never particularly great.
No. it was very weird when because of the way that they use like color filters on certain planets to make it look weird. Where you get those planets where looking through the scan visor looks completely different than what you're actually seeing, because it like takes away the actual filter that the world has on it, or puts a different filter on.
It's kind of cool.
There was definitely a couple of planets I'd been to where it was just like it's actually easier to see through the scan visor than it is to see normally.
It's kind of funny though, because I'm okay with that, because it's just like, hey, the scan visor is doing its job.
Except on all the other cases where it doesn't. It does the opposite. Makes it much harder to see. So anyway, I think that's it.
Cool.
I thought of something else I played that might be of interest. I played Panzer Dragoon Remake.
As in the Saturn game?
The remake of the Saturn game.
Right.
On PC. Yeah, I've got mixed opinions about that thing. Because Panzer Dragoon, the original, like, there's no getting away from the fact that the original game is very short.
Yeah, it's no auto, is it?
Oh no, it's definitely not auto. It's like nowhere near to that level of quality. But not even just in the design of the game. Like, the Saturn was clearly struggling to run that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But even if you now that's fixed and you play it like at a somewhat stable 60 frames per second, it's there's still design problems here and there with how that game actually plays. But as a prototype, I suppose, Panzer Dragoon that eventually led to Auto, it's all right. But you have to be aware going into it. You can finish it in an hour. Like it's a bit like Res. Like if you're
right, yeah.
If you just mainline it, like you're going to finish it pretty quick. And it's not as polished or as accomplished an experience as Res is. So, which leads to the big problem of like, hey, why does this thing cost so much? Its price tag is really, really hard to justify, unless you get it on deal or something. It went down to £7, I think, on Switch recently, which is probably decent. It's okay. Like I think it probably would be more acceptable if you played the Switch version, because I don't think they've really done much more than what the Switch is capable of on the PC version. Like it's not really a looker. It's clearly improved over the Saturn version, but it's still not really pushing any boundaries here and there. It gets by. It's got problems on PC where like whenever it swaps to play a video, it will cock up the settings, so like you'll lose VSync, so you have to go back into the menu, turn VSync off, turn VSync back on again, and then it will it's like all the settings will reset, it seems, when it loads a video. So then if you've changed anything or you want anything on, you have to go back in, and it's not a great port, and I assume you'll get none of that problem on Switch. It's even things like the video playback isn't great. Like it doesn't run very smoothly. It's a little bit choppy in spots, and I don't think the quality of what they've done to they've got the ability to do like the fanciest full motion video imaginable, and yet they've basically only done stuff that's like marginally better than what they could have done in Engine. So why didn't they do it in Engine? It probably would have looked better. It's some weird choices, and there's not a lot in the way of extras. So like once you've done your playthrough, it's like, do I really want to do it again? I guess I could do it in hard mode, which, as it turns out, it really isn't that much harder. And there's an achievement for trying to complete the entire game without using the lock-on shot, which is kind of the thing about Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, the thing about Panzer Dragoon.
So, but then, of course, because of the way those guns work in that game, that means you're then forced to rapid press a fire button if you're going to try and do a run on that, which I attempted. I attempted to do a run like that and got in hard mode and got scuppered by the final boss, and ran out of credits because my hit ratio wasn't good. Because that's the thing. It's like you earn credits by or extra lives by the amount you shoot down in each level. So if you're not managing to shoot down a high enough percentage, you're not gaining new lives. So like by the end of it, I ran out of lives doing the hurt your fingers approach. It does have an alternative firing mechanism, which is kind of interesting actually. Like you remember in Orta, basically or Lilac Wars for that matter, Star Fox. Your aim and where your ship is are kind of tied together. Your aim moves as you move your ship around. In the what they call the modern control scheme, they actually split those two things apart. So your right stick aims your reticle, and your left stick moves where the dragon is.
Right, independent.
I think that's decent. I'd like to see if Panzer Dragoon ever came back in a proper form, like a sequel to Orta. I'd like to see them stick to that control scheme. I think that works. Takes a little getting used to because it's you're doing two different things. But I think that works. I think that's neat. So good on them for that. But hey, it's like if you want to play Panzer Dragoon, the original, this is the way to do it. It's still better than playing the Saturn version.
Oh yeah. I mean,
you can see what's happening.
Yeah, it's not unplayable.
But yeah, if you spent the £25 on this, I think you'd come away quite disappointed with what you get in the package.
Yeah,
it would have been nice for them to throw in the Saturn version. Why not? Yeah, I mean, I know this is a ground up remake of it, but it would have been nice to maybe I can go back and play the original Saturn version like I can in Orta.
Right, exactly.
You can unlock the Saturn version in Orta.
The amount of random extras and stuff, Orta had all the FMVs practically from the weird RPG and everything, didn't it?
Yeah, it had the original intro. You could watch the original FMV. I think it had some stuff from Panzer 2, and some story stuff from Saga was mentioned in the box. It also had that secondary campaign as well. The weird campaign, do you remember? Where you were this kid of the Empire trying to be a trainee pilot, and it had all these strange missions.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Orta threw in for what is a fairly standard ass arcadey style game. They did actually try and throw in some extras, and they put work in. That's a decent ass game.
Play Panzer Dragoon Orta if you can. Presumably that'll be on a decent Xbox emulator near you.
Yeah, I should probably give that a go at some point soon.
Something to think about. Yeah,
but the I somewhat don't need to now because the Series X compatibility is decent, so it runs at 4K on my Series X.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Just put in the original disc. And
just put the disc in. It doesn't use the disc. It only uses it as verification, and it will download Orta from Xbox Network. And then there you go. 4K Panzer Dragoon.
Madness.
It's decent.
Oh, I wonder if I've got my copy somewhere. Anyway. Cool.
Maybe I should try emulating Rally Sport Challenge or something like that. Those games are good.
For the ice racing.
Yeah.
They're probably not as good as we remember.
I mean, the problem is they're probably not as good as the ice racing in Dirt 5. So.
No.
Not so many snowstorms and fireworks. But yeah, that was my little...
Right, well, I haven't been playing anything. I've been moving, but hopefully now I've got... I just need to get the PS4 and the Switch set up. PS4's in its box. Let me get that out. That'll do until next generation arrives. I can play Red Dead at least. And Wipeout, most importantly.
Absolutely.
And I will report back on what that's like next time.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. In the meantime... well, you can check out our YouTube channel. Oh, one thing though, this is more of an announcement for you guys, but I can tell the listeners anyway that I got a new router, obviously from BT or whatever. Plugged it into the modem. That's all working, but there's no real possibility of running Ethernet, and I don't actually have Wi-Fi in my PC at all. So if we want to play Deus Ex, I'm going to have to buy a Wi-Fi card. There may be a slight delay.
Cable.
No, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's miles away. It's miles away. Yeah, I thought I'd be plugging the router in the same room, but it's not. It's literally in the service like the airing cupboard, basically. It's
right.
Weird.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that's happening more
because that's where the modem
now.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like like a combined airing cupboard / server room. It's quite weird. Anyway, but there's fiber to that point, right? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Fiber to the premises.
My brother's house is like that. It's all in his cupboard.
Yeah.
Where everything happens.
So, yeah, I will potentially see about that. I really need to replace the PC. To be honest, like the graphics card fell out in transit just because it's not secured properly because the case is so old that the threads are stripped on the
right.
You
can't actually tighten the screw.
You can't actually hold them in. So it's like, man, I need to replace that thing. But that will be down the way. Hopefully it'll boot and play Deus Ex.
We've got to wait for the GPU crisis to end.
I know. Yeah. Well, maybe that can coincide with me, not having spent my life savings and being the most broke I've been in, 10 years. Oh, maybe not 10, 7 years. Right.
Wi-Fi cards aren't expensive though, so that should be easy.
No, I can get a Wi-Fi card and then I can play more Deus Ex and it will appear on our YouTube channel. But there's plenty that we've already done for you to check out, plus other videos coming soon, I'm sure. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another SaladCast.
Well, we might be back because I'm moving.
Well, depending on moving, yeah.
And whether or not I have internet or not may be slightly more important to how this works. I don't know.
That is true. You might have to go to Zach's to record the podcast.
Oh God, yeah, that could be a thing. I might have to sit in your garden.
That could work. Right, so we'll see. We'll maybe catch you then, listeners. Bye.